Congratulations, Ceramics 1. You guys have made it to the end of the semester. This is your final project in Ceramics 1. Today is Halloween, so please excuse the outfit. But I'm going to show you guys today how to build the architecture project. This used to be called the birdhouse project, so please do forgive me if I call it the birdhouse project. Yours does not have to be a birdhouse, as I've explained before, but if you wish to make it a birdhouse, there are instructions for that as well. Please talk to me. I will help you. It's a super easy shift from just a house to a birdhouse. This is, like I said, the final project of Ceramics 1. It's bittersweet, but I'm glad we're here because this is a big project with a lot of detail, and it can be super cool and a great piece to have in your house or give as a gift if you take the time to really finish out this semester strong and make this project your best one yet. We've already spent 2 days in the computer lab working on our references, doing our sketches, making sure our measurements are good so that we can build the strongest house project possible. What you're going to need in front of you before you start building anything, I don't want you to get any clay out, is you're going to want your sketch in front of you. Highly detailed sketch. You should have one from a couple of angles so that you can see what the different sides of the house are going to look like. Your sketch should also have your measurements on it. This one does not, just because it was a quick mock-up for this example here, but make sure that you have all of your measurements on your sketch. You're going to use that to create your templates, and the templates are pieces for each part of your house. So say I've got the front piece, I've got the left wall, I've got left roof, the right wall, I've got the back piece, I've got the right roof, and I've got the floor. If your house has a piece that juts out from it, you're going to need measurements for that. You need measurements for every single part of your house, and you want to make sure these are accurate so that they fit together well when we go to build it. If you mess up your templates, it's going to make it harder on yourself later when you go to build. So make sure you've got good templates, cut them straight, make sure they're nice and clean and ready to work with. Once you have your templates cut, then you will go up to the slab table and roll yourself some slabs. You don't have to get all of your templates cut in one slab. You do, however, want to make sure your slabs are about the same thickness, 1/4 of an inch thick, so that it is consistent throughout. We don't want one piece heavier than another. Remember, you want your pieces to be fairly thin. The wooden dowels that we have on the slab table are really good for that. I went ahead and I made my slabs just a little bit thinner than those wooden dowels so that it's going to be a nice light birdhouse. We don't want to go super thin because that's when we get cracks and things like that. Roll out your slabs, and then you'll use all of your templates to cut around and cut your pieces out. I went ahead and I marked, and it's hard to see on here, but I marked on each of my slabs what piece it is on the inside. This is going to be the inside. So that when I go to build it, I know what part it is. I don't recommend leaving the piece of paper on here like some people do, because then it ruins your template. And if you make a mistake, that template is going to be soggy. It's going to rip up. You're going to have pieces of paper in your clay. And it's just going to make it harder on yourself. So keep these separate. Once you cut it, I would just mark on here, either number them, letter them, or write out whatever piece this is. This says roof left, so I know which piece it is. Keep your templates until you're done building, just to be safe. I would keep them until you're on the detail stage, because if something happens, you've already got these. You don't need to remeasure to cut. You just roll it there, roll the slab, and cut this real quick. When you are up at the rolling table or the slab table rolling, first make sure you wedge your clay very well. Roll out your slabs, cut them, and then go back to your seat as soon as you can. Don't dilly-dally up at the wedging table. Take your time so that your projects are done correctly, but don't stand up there having conversations, taking up the time, because the biggest part of this project, other than all of the detail that you need to put into it, is getting up to the slab table, because it can be so hard to get up there. It takes a lot of time. A lot of people need to rotate through. So we want to make sure that we're using our time as wisely as we can when we're at the slab table so that we're not getting in the way of other people. Once you have all of your slabs cut, you can take them back to your seat and begin the building process. Please, again, do not build over on the rolling table. We want to make sure that people are able to roll their slabs up there. Once you've got your slabs, you're going to want your slabs. You'll want some water nearby for smoothing. You're going to want some slip, very good, slip, and you're going to need your tools. You'll need a sponge, a rib tool. We have the metal rib tools in the classroom, which are more like these. You're probably going to want a wooden knife of some sort. I like these here. Something to cut with, just in case we need to cut some edges. A tool for scoring, and possibly a fettling knife. You may use more tools than this, you may use fewer tools than this, but these are the ones that I am likely going to use to build my house. All right, so I've got my sketch nearby, I have my templates, I have my slabs, and you might notice that there's a paper towel between each slab. If you roll out your slabs, they're going to be rather soft right when you roll them out, because you should be working with pretty soft clay. So what you want to do is take them over to the hair dryer and dry them out a little bit until they're almost leather hard. This is pretty much leather hard clay. I can bend it just a bit, but not a ton. Or leave them in your bag in the board on paper towels like this. The reason I have the paper towels is it separates each of my pieces so that they don't stick to each other in the bag. So I'm going to go ahead and take each piece out now. A good day to roll out your slabs if you're not going to hit it with a hairdryer is Friday, because then it can sit in the bag like this over a whole weekend and dry out a bit. But if you're working on it on a weekday earlier in the week, just hit it with a hairdryer for a couple of seconds, couple of minutes. It won't hurt anything. You just don't want to dry your pieces out too much, but honestly, it's kind of hard to do that unless you're standing there forever. Just keep checking them. Now you're going to build your houses on your pegboards. I'm going to build mine on my table here, just because it's a more clear surface for me to work on for the video. Now, when you are building a box-like structure or a house structure, you want to start with the floor and then two of the sides. So let me grab my floor piece. This is my floor piece. It says floor on the top. I'm going to lean that up. I'm going to take my time right now to clean these edges up now that it's leather hard and it's not as soft as it was. I just want to very carefully clean the edges. I don't want to change the shape at all. But if I clean it now, the connection is going to be better. Just take a fettling knife. And now I'm going to take a rib tool to it. To just make sure all those edges are nice and clean. I also want to make sure the bottom is clean so that it doesn't scratch whatever surface I put it on after it's been fired. There we go, nice clean edge. I'm going to do the same thing with my other sides. All right, so I have a leather hard floor piece here. I'm going to grab my front piece, one of them, and one of the side pieces here, and I'm going to start attaching in an L shape. You want to attach one and maybe put something inside to help hold it up and then attach the other. If you do front side and back side or left and right, your pieces are just going to fall apart. You're going to have very weak connections, so take the time, do corners, do an L shape. That is going to be stronger. Make sure that these are nice and clean before I attach them. Again, it's going to make for a better connection. I'm going to connect my wall pieces on the outer edges of the floor here, like this, rather than on top. I feel like it is a much stronger connection if it is on the side. There's a lot more surface area touching there, versus up here, it feels a little weaker. This is just a fancy scoring tool. You can use your regular needle tools or the rib tool for scoring. I'm scoring the inside of this wall here because that's the part that's going to touch. Let's see if I can flip this way. I'm going to slip and attach. Sorry if you hear bumping in the background. The pug mill, which is what mixes up our clay, is running right now, so you might be able to hear it. Now I'm going to go ahead I've got this edge scored and slipped, this edge scored and slipped. I'm going to attach, and this is where you're going to need a little snake of clay. And I apologize if I didn't mention this before. I thought I did, but I might not have. Because you're going to need just a bit of clay, soft clay to work with. And I'm going to take a little snake of it, little coil, nothing too big. I'm going to fill the seam between these two pieces with it. So got those together. I'm going to fill the seam with a piece of clay and take a tool to smooth right in between. Excess. I'm going to take a lot of care in these stages here to clean up the inside because you will not have another chance to do so once the roof is on. And if you have windows that are open in your design, you're going to be able to see the inside where all those rough pieces are. So I'm just going to go ahead and smooth those out now. Now my piece is leather hard enough where it can stand on its own. If yours is still a little bit dry and floppy, just take something tall like the slip cup and sit it inside until you get a second wall on to hold this first wall up. Mine is going to hold on its own. I've got my front piece here. So it's front. I'm going to go ahead, match it up, make sure it fits. Now I'd like to move my connection down just a bit. That's going to do. This time I'm going to be scoring this outer edge of the first wall as well as the bottom of the floor. And the same on here, I'm going to score in an L shape. All right, I've scored and slipped. I'm going to go ahead and attach. Then I'm going to add just a little coil of snake on the inside. Now that I have these two sides attached, I'm going to squeeze out my sponge so it's dry. And I'm going to sop up any water that might be sitting on the inside. You don't want to have a pool of water ever sitting in a ceramic piece because that's what causes cracks, is that water will sit there and cause a crack. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn this very carefully. I would keep your piece on its board and turn the board rather than turning the piece. It's just easier. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that. You just kind of leave it up to, it's more likely to crack and break the more you handle it. Now you see here this connection between these two walls. I want to go ahead, square this off really good and clean it up so it's nice and straight before I move on to doing my other walls. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this longer wall. Same way I did the other two. With this piece on, it'll be hard for me to show you what I'm doing, but I'm doing the exact same process I did on the other wall. I'm just scoring, slipping, and then adding a coil in between these two pieces. Same exact process. More narrow pieces are going to be harder to get into than wider houses. So just keep that in mind. Sorry. So now I've got 3 of my 4 walls up, and you'll notice here there's a tiny ledge left over right here. I've got a little extra space. I put that in my design just in case I were to make a mistake cutting my slabs. If something is a little too short or too long, I have a little bit of extra room to work with. So now I can cut that little bit of extra off and put my final wall on. This final piece, you're going to have to score and slip 3 edges on both the piece and the house. So before I put the roof on, this is my last chance to check the inside and make sure there's no pieces sticking around that I don't want in there. Again, especially if you're going to have windows or doors that are open, you want the inside to be nice and clean. If everything is going to be closed, you're going to need to vent your piece in some way. A couple holes in the bottom should do it, just to be safe. 1 or 2. I'm going to have some open windows in my piece, so I'm not going to worry about venting it, so the windows will vent it for me. It's time to add the roof. Okay. So now I've got a very simple house shape. I'm going to spend a lot of time cleaning this up before I start adding details. I'm going to take a sponge, I'm going to take a rib tool, maybe even a silver spoon to burnish. I'm going to take a lot of time to make sure this looks very clean before I add anything like textures. In my sketch design, I had tiles on the roof, I had brick on the walls. I'm going to clean this up before I do any of that, especially any of this canvas texture from the wedging table. I'm going to clean that all up because I don't want any of that to show up in my final build once it's been fired. Once you have this shape built, all you have left to do is add details. And details, because that's the main part of this project. Look to the examples on the PowerPoint on Blackboard. Look to your reference photos that you've made. Look to other examples online, and I will have this somewhere in the classroom once it's completed for you to see more examples of what a highly detailed architecture project looks like. don't underestimate how long this project takes. It's those that know this project's going to take them quite a bit of time and prepare for it that do very well on this project, where the people who underestimate how long it's going to take are the ones who are rushing at the last minute to get things done. It never seems to work out for those people for one reason or another. So take your time, lots of details, make sure it matches your photos that you've drawn, and that is the architecture project.